everybody. My name is Louise Robertson. I'm a specialist dietitian in inherited metabolic disorders, and I'm here today to do the webinar on healthy eating on a low protein diet. So it's nice to see some people that have signed in live already, so that's great. So I think we'll just get going because we've got a lot to get through. Okay, so just a little bit of a disclaimer for you. And just to mention that this presentation is aimed at adults on a low protein diet who have PKU. The advice may not be suitable for children, for females following a pre-con diet or a pregnancy diet, and those requiring very strict control of their phenylalanine concentrations. So for tailored advice, please speak to your own dietitian. Okay, so I thought I'd start a little bit about me. So I graduated as a dietitian in 2002 from the University of Surrey. And then I moved to Birmingham for my first job. And I did all general kind of dietitian jobs to start with. And then I did some rotations. And then I went to Australia for a bit. And then I came back and worked in the burns unit at Selly Oak Hospital. And then that's when the new service for inherited metabolic disorders for adults was being set up. And that was back in 2008. So I applied for that job and got that. I was trained up by the dietitians at the Children's Hospital under Anita MacDonald and her team. So I was there for 3 months training, and then I got to move back to the adult hospital and take the adult service with me. And that was 11 years ago, and I'm still here. So I'm obviously enjoying it. And I have a keen interest in PKU as well, and especially the healthy eating aspects of it. So today I'm going to give you a little bit of introduction. Then we're going to think a little bit more about a lot of those headlines that we're seeing at the moment about sugar, about fiber, and about fat, and how we can incorporate that into a low protein diet. Thinking about getting the balance right with everything, and then thinking a little bit about store cupboard ideas, maybe some snack ideas, and eating out, just to bring it all together. Okay, so just a little introduction. So in theory, a low protein diet sounds like a very healthy diet, as it should include lots of vegetables and fruits, which are low in protein and low in calories. And there should be avoidance of saturated fats because we're not eating very many animal products. So as a group of dietitians, adult dietitians, we did some work back in 2013 looking at people with PKU who are on diet, what their BMI levels are. Now, BMI stands for body mass index, and that's looking at your height compared to your weight. So a healthy weight BMI should be between 20 to 25. Now, it's a bit of a, it's not a really accurate way of measuring body composition, but it's a starting point. So you can see from the graph, the red is our people with PKU. The blue was English population, green Northern Ireland, and orange Scotland. So you can see that they're generally kind of all the same. So when you looked at this statistically, that we didn't see any difference. So what we could say was that the rates of overweight and obesity in people with PKU are very similar to the UK population. And we also saw that as BMI increases, as you get older, your BMI also increases. So this is similar to the UK population. We also found a correlation between BMI and mean Phe concentrations. So you can see generally as people's BMI increased, then so did their mean phenylalanine concentration. So we can't be sure why that is, but it could be that someone who is underweight with a BMI of less than 18.5 is probably eating less food and therefore less phenylalanine, so that Phe concentrations are staying that little bit lower. So why can it be difficult to eat healthily and watch your weight on a low protein diet? Well, we hear a lot in clinic, people tell us how it can be difficult, and I put a question out on Twitter, and so ask why do you find it difficult? What's confusing? So there are confusing healthy eating messages coming really from Public Health England, because it's not always the same for a general kind of normal protein diet. Some people said we're surrounded by healthy, high protein foods. So at the moment, it's very in vogue to be on a low carb diet and a high protein diet, such as the Atkins diet or the ketogenic diet. And that's not going to work for somebody with PKU on a low protein diet. Sometimes people say carbohydrate foods don't fill you up for long. And also it's hard to get quick snacks from the shops that are low protein because they're often high in fat and calories, such as crisps and chocolates and biscuits. So it does take time and organisation to follow a healthy low protein diet. Anyone looking after their diet and trying to eat healthily does need to do some planning and organisation, even more if you're on a low protein diet. We often see people not necessarily on a low protein diet, but any kind of diets, and they can struggle eating healthily if they don't have the time to plan. If they're going out to takeaways, they're buying their food all the time, then they're going to be eating higher calorie foods. So we do need to plan. Everyone needs to plan and organize their diet, but it's that bit more important on a low protein diet. So some of the headlines we see in the media. Sugar is always in the news at the moment, isn't it? So the headlines often are sugar is toxic, sugar is the new tobacco. How should you cut? You need to be cutting your sugar intake by half. And also with the sugar tax, it's been going on for the last few years. So sugar messages can be very confusing. Now, don't worry, sugar is not toxic and it is not the new tobacco. So back in 2015, the government published a report on carbohydrates. In the report, it recommended that 50% of our energy intake should come from carbohydrates, so really half of what we eat, and that is recommended to maintain your weight. They also said the amount of sugar we should be eating, we should reduce the amount of sugar and reduce it from 10% of our energy to just 5% of our energy intake. Now, this is quite a small amount, and it only equates to 5 to 6 teaspoons of sugar per day. Now, the sugar we're talking about is what they call free sugars. Now, this is sugar found at the table that you would add to your tea, your coffee, your cereal, in sugary drinks, in syrups, honeys, and fruit juices. Now, this does not include sugar that you find in fruit, what we call fruit sugars. Now, that's because the sugar is found within the fruit and within the fibre, and it takes a long time to get digested. So we don't need to limit our fruit intake. We also don't need to limit our milk sugar intakes, but that shouldn't be so much of a problem because it's higher in protein and we shouldn't be having so much milk products. So looking at the report, the only reason they said to reduce the sugar intake was to minimize our risk of obesity, which could lead to other health conditions such as diabetes. And also too much sugar can lead to tooth decay. Now, there wasn't anything more sinister than that. You're not going to get cancer from sugar. You're not going to drop down dead from eating sugar. It's just that it could increase your chance of putting on weight and it could hurt your teeth. So in a low protein diet, there are lots of studies showing that the diet is higher in carbohydrates. It's about 60% of our energy intake, and it is lower in fat. And one study even showed that the stricter the low protein diet, then the lower it was in fat. So as the diet, in a low protein diet, the diet is limited as it is, and it has a higher carbohydrate content because of that. So we shouldn't worry too much if your diet is a little bit more in carbohydrate and a little bit more in sugar than the recommendations for the general population, as this is where you're getting your main source of calories from. But the main thing to do is to cut out any obvious sources of free sugars from your diet, because the ones that your body doesn't need. And this way you can reduce the calories in your diet and help with weight loss and help prevent weight gain. So ways to reduce your sugar intake. Well, the first kind of easy way to reduce your sugar intake is not to have lots of sugary drinks, because that's an easy way to get rid of the sugar, and it's kind of what we call empty calories. It's sugar, but it doesn't give you anything else in the diet. Of course, it needs to be aspartame-free, sugar-free drinks. So we'd always say go for water first. If you're going for sugar-free drinks, do check for the aspartame in there as well. But the bigger brands are the ones that contain it. But if you're looking for supermarket own brands, then they have things, sweeteners in it like sucralose, and any other sweetener is absolutely fine. It's just aspartame that's the problem. So choose more savory snacks rather than going for sweet snacks all the time. It could be crackers, whether it's your low protein version or not, toast, chopped vegetables and a tomato dip, or making a batch of vegetable soup that you can have during the day, or low protein cheese chunks, maybe with some apple. If you're going to have fruit as your snacks, then go for the whole fruits. Watch out if you're having smoothies or fruit juices. Because if you think about a fruit juice or a smoothie, if you think how many pieces of fruits they would have used to make that drink, then it will then be a lot of fruit sugars there. Okay, so if you are having fruit juice or smoothies, we say no more than 150 mils, a small portion at a time. And don't add extra sugar to your meals or your drinks. Don't add it to your tea or your coffee. And if you do, just try cutting that down. If you have 2 spoons, go to 1 spoon and eventually cut it out. Or you could use suitable sweeteners instead. Always check the packet. Okay, so moving on to fibre next. So the same government report from 2015 said that we should increase the amount of fibre in our diet for healthy eating. So we should be aiming for 30 grams of fibre a day, which is quite a lot. And the reason for this is that they said there is a reduced risk of cardiovascular disease and colorectal disease with the more dietary fibre we eat. So cardiovascular disease is heart disease and stroke, and colorectal disease is disorders of your colon, so it could be colon cancer. So the more fibre you eat, the less chance you have of getting these disorders. So what is fibre? Well, we've got 2 types of fibre in our diet. We've got soluble fibre, and these are fibres that can be digested and can help to soften the stools. They also help to lower your cholesterol. And these are found in fruits and root vegetables and oats. Or you have insoluble fibre, and these can't be digested as well, and they pass through our gut. So they're found more in wholemeal bread, cereals, nuts and seeds. So because they don't pass through your gut, they're good for forming your stools and preventing you from having constipation. So it is difficult to eat a high fibre diet when you're following a low protein diet, as a lot of the high fibre foods are often higher in protein as well. So for example, nuts and seeds, oats, beans, pulses, wholemeal bread, pasta, brown rice and cereals all contain a little bit of protein as well. So don't worry if you can't meet your 30 grams of fibre per day, because when you look back at some of the reports, then most of the people in the UK are not meeting their target for fibre anyway, because it is quite difficult. But even saying that, even a small increase in fibre in your diet will be beneficial for your health. And fibre is also good food for our good bacteria in our gut, our good microbes. So feeding them is beneficial for your gut as well. So ways of getting fibre into a low protein diet. So I've done you a table with different foods, the amount with the fibre. So more recently, we've seen some of the low protein food companies adding fibre into their products, which is great. So you can see the example here, there's a penne pasta with added fibre, and that's got lots of fibre in and no exchanges, so that's really good. Now the rest of the foods have fibre in them, but a little bit of protein in as well, so you'd have to put them into your exchanges. But of course, right at the bottom, apples. So fruit and vegetables that are free of exchanges are a good way to get fibre in. So tips for adding more fibre into your diet. So definitely aiming for your 5 a day of fruit and vegetables. The more vegetables, the better. It's giving you fiber, getting all your vitamins and minerals in, filling you up. So choosing low protein foods with added fiber as well. So check with your dietitian which of the brands of low protein foods have had it added into, because then you could have a go with those products. Try choosing exchange foods with fiber in, like the table we've just looked at. So it could be going for fiber crackers or rye crackers, brown rice, jacket potato with their skin on, including a few oats in there, or high fiber breakfast cereals. And then making small steps to increase your fiber in your diet. So any increase is a benefit. But if you are putting more fiber in, just do it slowly, a little bit each week, increasing it and making sure you're having plenty of fluids. If you increase the fiber too much too quickly and you're not getting plenty of fluids, then your bowels will play up and they will hurt. So slowly and with plenty of fluids. Okay, so I'm going to talk about fat now. Sorry, wrong paper. Okay, so there are often confusing headlines about different types of fat. So if you believe all the headlines, then butter is back. You should even put butter in your coffee. And of course, you need to have lots of coconut oil to help you lose weight. Well, a lot of these are myths, okay? And it's the examples of the media wanting to get sensational headlines, or health bloggers or personal trainers getting those messages slightly wrong when they're trying to read the papers and not interpreting them the right way. So fats are important in your body. We do need fats to help absorb some of our fat-soluble vitamins, such as A, D, E, and K, and they provide us with the essential fatty acids that our body needs. But too much fat leads to too many calories and can lead to weight gain. So the fats that we should be looking to reduce in our diet are saturated fats. And it's recommended we cut down on the saturated fats as these are linked to high cholesterol. This includes butter and ghee and coconut oil and foods that are made containing these products, such as manufactured biscuits and cakes. So the better fats to choose are unsaturated fats. And these are healthier fats, and this includes olive oil, rapeseed oil, olive margarines, avocados, and olives. So you want to be cutting down on the saturated fats and using the unsaturated fats more. So the PKU diet should be naturally low in saturated fat anyway, because we find a lot of saturated fat in meat and meat products and dairy products, and you shouldn't be having many of those on a low protein diet. Okay, so moving on, thinking about getting the balance right. So we mustn't think just about the components of the diet. We mustn't just think about sugar, fat on their own, but we should think about everything together as a whole. It's like balancing everything, having different jigsaw pieces, putting them together to make the healthy diet. So it might not just be that you're juggling family life as well, but it might be work, you might be moving out of home for the first time or starting university. So thinking about your portion sizes of your foods, not overeating the carbohydrates, being prepared with snacks. If you know that you're gonna get hungry mid-morning, then plan for that. Take a healthy snack with you. And if you're juggling family life, then trying to adapt your meals and make them slightly similar to the rest of the family to help there. So exchange-free foods. These are foods such as low-protein pastas, low-protein bread, low-protein flour, biscuits, and cakes. So they are essential for keeping phenylalanine concentrations low in the diet, and it would be very difficult without them to keep your phenylalanine concentrations low. So recently, as a group of metabolic dietitians, we decided that we should be referring to these foods as exchange-free foods rather than just free foods. So free foods tend to give the impression that you can eat as many of them as you like because they are free. Yes, they are free or very low of phenylalanine, but they generally still contain the same amount of calories as their higher protein alternatives. So if you munch your way through a whole packet of biscuits, low protein biscuits, because they are free, then you'll also be eating lots and lots of calories as well. So this graph here I've put together just shows that the calories in low protein foods are very similar to the calories in the normal protein alternative. The low protein bread at the top, you can see the low protein bread is often quite small. The slices, so only 20-gram slices, whereas the white bread sliced medium is a 40-gram slice, but you can see if you double up the calories, they're very similar. The crackers are the same, the cereal calories are the same, the pasta and the rice are the same, the biscuits, same calories. The cake, for some reason, the cake, low protein cake mix is slightly higher, so maybe it's got a bit more fat in or something because there's not so much protein. Okay, so portion sizes. So to help the public think about portion sizes, then the British Nutrition Foundation recently published some new guidance on portion sizes. So they recommend for some foods using your hand as a guide. So everyone has slightly different calorie requirements. A taller man will have larger calorie requirements than a smaller female. So by using your hand, then the larger male will get a larger portion size than a smaller female. So these portions are recommended for a general healthy diet, and so someone aiming for 50% carbohydrate as energy from their meals, from their meals. So looking at the slide, they would recommend, so for pasta or rice, a handful or 2 handfuls when you hold your hand like that of dried rice or pasta would be a portion. If it was cooked, putting your 2 hands together like that would be a portion. If it was spaghetti and it was dried, bunching it together, and it should be the size of a pound coin. Low protein bread or normal bread should be 2 slices, but because low protein bread is much smaller, it would be 4 slices of low protein bread as a portion. Crackers, 2 crackers for a snack, 4 to 6 for a meal. Cereal, so low protein cereal would be similar. I would say about 3 handfuls as a portion size, and a jacket potato about the size of your fist would be a standard portion size. But then you might actually want to weigh it when it's cooked to see what exchanges it would be. Probably be around about 3 exchanges. Okay, so we discussed earlier that a low protein diet is naturally higher in carbohydrate, especially if you're trying to maintain your weight. So it could be that these portion sizes are slightly too low for you. But remember, the larger portions that you eat, the more calories will be in them. So it's kind of working it out what's right for you. But what you could do is next time you cook yourself some pasta or rice, pour it into the pan, the dried pasta or rice, about what you're going to cook yourself. Then you could try pouring it into your hand and seeing how much you're having, or you could weigh it, see how much it weighs, and then check your packet of pasta or rice and see how much the packet recommends as a portion. And if you are way over this, then you probably are having a bit too much, and maybe put a little bit back into the packet and start with there, see how you go. Now, I can hear you saying, Louise, I'm going to starve if you make me cut down on the only food that I can eat. Okay, so this is when I would say, okay, I want you to fill up on vegetables and salads. This is where vegetables and salads are so important in the low protein diet. They are full of fiber and bulk and can make you feel fuller at meal times. So make sure you are including lots of vegetables and salads with your meals, with pastas and rice, mixing in lots of vegetables, and with a meal, making sure you're having at least 2 portions of vegetables, and with lunches, making sure you're getting some salads in there as well. Okay, so snack ideas. Preparing and organizing your snacks is very important. So if you get hungry in between your meals, then plan for it. because it's harder to pick up lower calorie, lower protein snacks in the shops. You could be at work, put some stuff in your desk drawer, or if you're taking a packed lunch, making sure you pack your snack as well as your lunch. So some ideas, using low protein prescription foods such as the crackers, toast, a handful of cereal, or making the flour to make savory biscuits or straws or pancakes. Using fruit and vegetables, fresh or dried, making sticks, vegetable sticks and dips, or making a soup. Using foods you can buy in the shops that are lower in protein, or looking for the gluten-free varieties that are slightly lower in protein. But it would have to be counted as exchanges, such as snack bars, cereal bars, popcorn, maybe vegan cheese chunks, maybe with an apple, coconut yogurt, and fruit. Or I had an idea to make your own trail mix, if you've heard of that before. You get lots of different ingredients like dried fruits, raisins, banana chips, cranberries, apricots, maybe some low protein cereal or some popcorn. And if you want a little bit of a treat in there, maybe some dark chocolate chips, or if you're being strict, get some low protein chocolate and chip it yourself. Mix it all in a bowl and then portion it out into little pots or into little bags. And you can take that with you as your own personal little snack. Okay, so juggling with family life. Life is busy. We don't want to make it too hard by cooking completely different meals all the time for you and for your family. So try planning ahead a bit more and making some similar meals for your family. So these pictures are actually from when I did the PKU diet for a week, and some of the things that I try to do with my family meals. So you can see the first picture of like the roast dinner. You can see in the background there's the meat that my husband had, and I had a low protein burger mix made into a patty. And I think I've got less peas because there were exchanges. We weren't counting broccoli so strictly with exchanges then. And then the middle one, the pasta dish, I made the same tomato sauce, same vegetable sauce, but I had low protein pasta. They had regular pasta, and I might have put a bit of cheese or some beans or something in there to increase the protein. And then the final picture, I've got vegetable fingers, and at the back, the rest of the family have got fish fingers. So similar mashed potato, which would have been counted as exchanges, and actually my vegetables are slightly different, not so many exchange vegetables there. Okay, so being prepared and stocking up your store cupboard. So we often hear people say that they come home from work tired or from university and there is nothing in the fridge for them to eat, so they turn to takeaways or unhealthy foods. So try and keep your store cupboard food stocked up so that when your fresh food has run out or you haven't been shopping recently, then you can still make something quickly. So some of the ideas I've put down there for you, but you can have anything. So store cupboard ideas, get lots of tins of tomatoes, different vegetables, fruit, ratatouille. A tin of ratatouille is great to have, spaghetti hoops. Then have things like stock cubes or herbs and spices, so you can actually make your meals taste nice as well. Having lots of dried foods like your low protein pastas or rices, couscous, or having potatoes. Stocking up your freezer, and some of people that we work with say that they have their own little freezer so they can put their own stuff in there. So you could be very organized and you could have some batched cooked meals already in there, or you could make sure you have some slices of low protein bread or flatbreads or pancakes in there that you can just pull out, put in the toaster or put in the microwave. Maybe a pack of potato waffles. I can hear you saying, but that's not very healthy. But actually potato waffles probably more healthier than going down the chip shop and getting a pack of chips. And lots of different bags of frozen vegetables, and you can get frozen fruit as well. And then in your fridge, low-fat margarine, mayonnaise, jam, marmalade, low-protein cheese. So if you come home late and you think, what am I going to do? You could get your tin of ratatouille, make some low-protein pasta, add some herbs. That's a pretty quick meal. Or getting your potato waffles, maybe a tin of tomatoes, tin of mushrooms on your potato waffles, or your frozen vegetables, grabbing a handful of each of your frozen vegetables, popping them in a pan with a tin of tomatoes, adding some curry powder, and you've got a quick curry, maybe getting a flatbread out of the freezer to go with it. So it's just having a think as well and being a little bit organized from that point of view. So I wanted to put this slide in to talk about exchanges, healthy, kind of unhealthy exchanges. So this is an extreme version to kind of illustrate my point. That sometimes we can get stuck in a rut with the same exchanges every day. So you can see this is 2 lots of 8 exchanges over the day. So the bigger one here, for example, they might have cheese flavored potato snacks, crispy things, some fries, a chocolate bar, cereal bar, a powdered cheese sauce, peas, and some more crisps because I've got some exchanges left. And that comes to 8 exchanges, but it also comes to 800 calories and nearly 40 grams of fat. Whereas if you chose maybe a wheat biscuit in the morning and maybe some other low protein cereal to go with it, 2 crackers at lunchtime, and then 4 exchanges of rice in the evening for your meal, that again comes to 8 exchanges, but it only comes to 300 calories and 3 grams of fat. So there's a big difference there. So I'm not saying that you have to be perfectly like this one here, but just be mindful of what exchanges you are using, what foods you are using as exchanges, so they're not all high fat, high calorie foods. So other healthy exchange ideas could be popcorn, baked beans, the vegetables, the coconut yogurt, and hummus if you've got a bit more allowance, 50 grams for 4 exchanges. So eating out. So eating out can be hard. Now there has been the rise of veganism recently, hasn't there? So it's given a bit more choice, but still can be hard. So some vegan foods are suitable, such as like jackfruit or deep fried cauliflower, salads, vegan cheeses, but there are higher protein vegan foods such as beans and lentils and chickpeas. So you just need to be wary of that as well. So pre-planning when you go out to bars or restaurants, or choosing restaurants that do maybe little tapas or little meze plates, so you can order lots of different sides, vegetable sides, salads and fries. Now don't be shy and ask them and see what they can do for you. Restaurants are becoming very allergy and intolerance aware these days, especially. You might remember, sadly, the case of the girl who died on the plane because her freshly made sandwich was not labelled as containing an allergen. So restaurants are getting very hot on allergens. And I've had several restaurants ask me if I've had any allergies. So you haven't got an allergy, but it's almost like an intolerance, the way you could phrase it. I'm not allowed to eat these things. So what can you do for me? What can we choose off the menu? Do ask them, see what they can do for you. So some ideas, like if you go to a gastro pub, seeing if they've got a salad bar, choosing a jacket potato or sweet potato fries, coleslaw. If you're going to an Indian or Chinese, choosing a tomato-based vegetable dish, plain rice, poppadoms or chapati. Obviously counting some of those as exchanges. And if you go to Italian salads, there's more vegan pizzas available, and they're still going to have a bit of protein in, but they'll be lower than regular pizzas. Or try taking your own base or pasta. So the last thing I want to talk about is eating mindfully. So take the time to sit at the table and enjoy your food. Don't eat on the run, because that won't make you feel full. Listen to your body. Start with a smaller portion, and if you're still hungry, then have some more at the end. Quite often when we eat, it's quite a habit of what and how we eat. So, for example, if you feel that you don't feel satisfied until you've eaten something sweet at the end of your meal, try making a new habit. Maybe try finishing your meal with a cup of coffee, and this may start to signal to you that this is the end of your meal, and therefore you won't want something sweet after it. So also, if you're going to have a snack, asking yourself, why are you eating this snack? Is it because you are actually hungry, or maybe is it because you're bored? And more recently, I've heard some dietitians talking about the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time, try and eat healthily, and maybe 20% of the time, it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, but you can treat yourself to having some chocolate or some crisps or a glass of wine. So including those foods in your diet. So because if you completely cut them out, then you're going to crave them and you'll probably fall off the bandwagon more. and eat them. Okay, so in conclusion, a healthy low protein diet does take time, planning and organization. But don't blame yourself if some days you can't manage this. That is absolutely fine. You know, if you do something, eat something you shouldn't have, don't worry about it. Just start again with the next meal or with the next day. Think of your diet as a whole. Don't think of it as nutrients. Don't think of it as one meal. Think about what you're eating over the week. So when we talked about the 80-20 rule, that would kind of help with that there. And look after yourself. Look after yourself as a whole. It's not just about diet, it's about exercise as well. And it's about looking after your mental health. Okay, so just to let you know where to find me. So I'm on Twitter as @LouiseDietitian. I also run a blog, which does have a PKU page as well. So you can have a look at that. And I work at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham. So if it's any particular questions specific to you, then you do need to talk to your own dietitian.